Greetings, everyone. I'm Eddie Brown, the director of the Greater Hartford Youth Leadership Academy at Hartford Communities That Care. And this is our Raising Youth Voices podcast perspective on session 3 of the Accelerator, Resilience and Learnings from Brain Science. I'm joined today again by our 3 youth that are here with me today, Nezra Adams, Jaron Langford, and our college and youth ambassador, Deja Borns, who was all online Thursday. And frankly, we all had our minds completely blown by the technical aspects of brain science, but in a good way. First speaker, Dr. Richard Davison, explained that neuroscientists distinguish between declarative learning, which is conceptual, as in education, about the hazards of trauma, and procedural learning, which is skill-based and essential to resilience. Dr. Stacy Phillips noted that conditions of poly-victimization, collective experiences like those experienced by a 16-year-old girl she described, Sally, who was sexually molested, witnessed a gang fight, had her cell phone stolen, and was bullied. This onslaught was her everyday trauma. Hope is a buffer, Dr. Phillips emphasized, but is not just a wish. It's about employing action and intention and problem-solving skills. Dr. David Paxton reviewed charts showing how oversensitized children tend to jump to extreme stress, vulnerable to unpredictable, severe, and prolonged conditions of chaos. And finally, Dr. Julius Mullen pointed to 3 brain science principles from the Harvard Center on the Developing Child, which his organization has integrated into professional development. 1 is building responsive relationships, 2 is strengthening core life skills, and 3 is reducing external sources of stress. Throughout this session, the experts spoke on a highly technical level, but a common theme was that a positive outlook, having real hope and a real reasons for hope, is very important to resilience. And this is where we'll begin today. I'm honored to be joined by, again, our 3 youth, Deja Borns, Jaron Langford, and Nezra Adams. Of course, first and foremost, I would just want to go around real quick and do check-ins, how you guys' week has been, and just catch us up on what's been going on since last week.
This week has been good besides Thursday. Thursday was very stressful because of my math test, and I am still stressed because it has yet to be graded. And if I do not do good on this math test, I do not do good on this quarter. So that's my week.
Good luck with that. I know you'll do well.
My week was my usual week. I went to work, working with kids and stuff like that. And I don't know what happened, but then I just got really stuffy. But I don't know why. But and then I'm just trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next week, because for work I do before and after care for school. And so since we're going hybrid, it's kind of difficult for that piece. I don't know how that's gonna work. But yeah, other than that, it's fine. Today I get my hair done, so
All right.
good.
Just hanging on in there.
It's been good. I've been trying not to stress as much as I used to. I finished all my applications for colleges, and I actually got into 3 as soon as I submitted them. So everything's going good so far.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's great. All right. Thank you guys so much. Let's jump into the first question. So while we appreciate the information about building hope as presented by the experts in neuroscience, how might young people help translate this brain science information in ways that will help make a difference in our community?
Well, hopefully you can take people who've experienced these things that would then permanently impact their behavior and their brain in the future. And so if they could tell their stories and how it affected them and how it affected their brain science, then hopefully people could understand, because then they have an event to connect it with and something to base the effects off of, so to speak. That's my best way to explain it. Just having something to connect brain science to a real world event, then you could understand it better.
I feel like the way to do it is to use it in not medical terms, because when I'm terrible with names, but like when one of the neurologists was talking about the brain and the different parts and the cortexes and the whatever, I understood it, but it was just like other people were lost. It was kind of like, it seemed like gibberish. So it was basically like to use it in like what he was saying, like the alarm system and the filing center. And it's crazy because I actually learned about that in the training that I'm, well, now certified in. So like they kind of use that as a leverage point because not everybody's interested in the brain and the different parts. So like using it as like the this is just throwing the cortex and stuff is like the filing center, the organization, and then the other parts of the brain is like the alarm where it goes to like stress and stuff, and then it's like as soon as the alarm turns on, everything turns off. So like using real life situations and listening to their youth and stuff like that is a good way to start, and also like using regular terms to talk about the brain science and how it affects us as humans.
Right. Just to piggyback off what they both said, just not using scientific terms all the time because some people can get lost. Not gonna lie, I was one of those people who got lost. But trying to relate the science to life experience and stuff like that can help deeply.
Dang, I wasn't trying to put you out there like that, bro. That's why I said some people, like.
No, it's all good. It's just, having a clear understanding. Like I said, when we bringing it back to the communities versus the professionals to the youth, it has to be somewhat watered down or somewhat broken down because, they don't understand those big terms. So it's important. It's important. All right, moving on. Dr. Mullen remembered his work with a group of young people focused on resilience, and he pointed out to a profound suggestion from one teen to rework the term ACEs, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and refers to the traumatic events children experience, ranging from all types of abuse and neglect, as well as parental mental illness, substance use, divorce, incarceration, and domestic violence. Dr. Mullen credited a teen in his program with the idea that we need to flip the script on ACEs, accepting the circumstances by embracing your strengths, which can be regarded as positive supports like who has your back and other affirming assets for turning the dismal space of adversity into hope. So my question is, how does the definition of ACEs and other technical, sometimes scary terminology affect your resilience?
Okay, first off, I would just like to start off by saying, like, people don't realize that little things matter. The smallest things can have the biggest effect. For instance, I took the ACE test and my score was a 9. And I had texted Deidre and I was telling her like how I felt. I felt very like my whole life was problematic because my score was so high, and I think that the highest that you can get is a 12. So getting a 9, I just felt like my life was very problematic, and I felt like my life was just trash, like it was garbage. But when I heard that a teen in Dr. Mullen's program had wanted to change it to accepting the circumstances by embracing, it made me feel like I had control over everything in my life. It made me feel like I can increase the resilience. And one of the speakers also said that we have to try to not look at what's wrong with the person, but look at what's right as well. So just hearing those two things just made me feel like I actually had control, and it increased my resilience personally.
For that question, I feel like Nezra said, the small things matter. So like when he told us to embrace our situations and stuff like that, it was an eye-opener because we're so used to using terminology that can affect us. And I saw this thing, it was like manifestation and stuff like that. And it was like, we're so used to saying, I can't wait until I move out. I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. But when we're trying to manifest things or like change the way we think, like she said, to say, I'm so ready. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to like be able to get my license. Like, it's different ways to strengthen the way you think. And so changing that is also a positive, because he's taking those things, that term, and changing it into a positive. Because when you say aces, it's like, dang, like my life is just garbage. Like, why do I went through all this stuff? Like, it's crazy. But now I can look at it as I got through it because I'm still here. So, and like teaching other people that they could get through it too. It's just the simple fact that now they know that, yes, I've been through a lot, but then I can help the next person that feels like they can't get through it at all. So
it's amazing you said that, Deidre, because it's really embracing your strengths. You know, tapping into, we all have circumstances, we all have obstacles, but really embracing your strengths really brings out, you know, the best in you, you know, through these conditions. So go ahead, Jaron, you have something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I read this question very different than y'all two did. When he said, hold on, when he had said, when he said, how does the definition of ACEs in other technical terms affect your resistance, another technical, sometimes scary terminology, affect your resistance, I took it as, how do these scary terms build your resistance, instead of how can they be changed to build your resistance? And thus, I think, like I thought at the time, that because they are so scary, because they are so big, similar to what Deidre said, it shows you what you've been through, and it shows you that you're still here, and thus it shows you that what you have adapted to learn to be able to handle. And so that's how I took it. It's like, you've been through all this horrible, scary stuff, all these different ACEs, and thus yet you're still here, you're still living, and so you know how to handle them if they were ever to be brought back up into the future. That's how I took it.
I like that. That's a different way to look at it, you know. So again, it's all about your perspective and how you take this. But again, that clear message is just, you know, there's other ways around it than being so technical. But it's really just, again, embracing your strengths and understanding ways that we can break it down, so you know you can get a better view within this. My next question, Dr. Paxson, she emphasized that relationships serve as a buffer to trauma. You can't minimize the importance of safe, healthy, trusting relationships. So my question is, how have you or those that you know benefited from a safe space with trusted relationships?
I thrive off of safe spaces. So I do therapy. Yes, I admit it, I do therapy. But I talk to my therapist every Thursday. So like, and I could bump it up if I need to. I could decrease it if I need to. But it's great because I have somebody to talk to other than the people in my household that could give me an outside opinion. Like, you know, because you're used to your parents saying, you're good, you're such a good child, you're nothing wrong, you know, like, you know, you're so used to that. And then so like getting an outside opinion where it's like, okay, so you should, how about we do some homework and you see what you can apply to your life that we talked about, like, you know. And then I try to do my own safe spaces where I let people vent to me, and actually I give them advice on how to apply some things to their life. So I feel like building that and actually being that wall to hold them up when they feel like they're falling is like a big thing for me, because it builds a relationship and it creates that bond that you will not be able to break through any circumstances, because you guys have been through so much. So I feel like, you know, going through that journey with them is like great. So that's what I think. So
I talk about this a lot, but when we had fostered my younger cousin, he was in a safe place and he had safe, trusting relationships, and thus, if there was something that were to be off or something that were to be bothering him, he could have spoken to us about it, and that's because he was with people he trusted. And so if he was to be put in a home with people he didn't know and didn't already trust and didn't have these pre-existing relationships with, then it could have been a much different, much worse situation for him, and he could have been bouncing in between foster home and foster home because he never built that trust with a single person. And so I will forever be grateful that he was put with us, because he was in a safe place where he could vent if he needed to, where he could release emotion if he needed to, and he had a lot of emotion because he was so young at the time. And so that's just always something that I know when I talk about safe, trusting relationships.
I personally feel like being able to have that good space and being able to trust somebody and knowing that you can vent to somebody can relieve a lot of stress. When I first started this program, I was going through a lot. I was really going through a lot. And then within like 2 weeks, automatically like that, I met Deja and I felt like I could just trust her. I remember it was this one day, I was really sad and she just kept pushing herself on me. She was trying to get me to vent. Until I finally like actually vented. And then ever since then, our connection has been like this. And I feel like no matter what I go through, I can always vent to her and I can always lean on her. And that just relieves a big weight on my shoulders, because it's like, whatever I go through, I don't have to go through it alone, because I know that there's going to be somebody listening and somebody who is willing to put their shoulder out for me to lean on and cry on.
Amazing. And it's so powerful coming from your own individual experiences. That's what's most important. And don't be afraid to share. You use therapy. Yes, we all need it. You go to therapy. It's everything we need to build our mental health. Nobody's perfect here, but whatever it's going to do to strengthen our, well-being is most important. And again, you say you do a lot of self-care. A lot of people twice your age probably don't even know what self-care is. So it's so important that you know this at an early age. Jaren, from your experience, being around your cousin, having all of these stories and from your own experiences really helps. And again, I hope the audience is highly encouraged. And you all three being in the Youth Leadership Academy, having this safe space in this creative space alone is just another, pivot to, what our future generations can look forward to. So thank you guys so much for sharing that.
Well, another thing about the safe space is that you, as a person that's providing the safe space, need somebody else to talk to. Because I remember that day that me and Ezra were like venting to each other, and I had said that you can't hold everything in, because she said that she was always taking in people's problems, and I was like, you have to release in order to take in. So you can't always bottle up people's problems plus your own, because then you're going to explode one day. So you got to be able to have another person, like a therapist or something, where you can be like, all right, I have this problem, and then vent. But like, a lot of people are so used to taking in that they don't release. So it's a little motion like the waves. The waves go in and come back out, go in and come back out. So it's an in, take in, and then release. So yeah, that's another thing that you have to keep in mind when you're talking about safe spaces.
I'm telling you, future therapist. She don't believe it. Anyways, moving on. Dr. Phillips urged turning people's attention to hope by changing the way you talk and changing the atmosphere to what is right with you. In fact, all of the Session 3 experts spoke about how important it is to change the negative narrative that so often stereotypes and leaves youth growing up in poverty feeling defeated. So my question is, how would you go about changing that negative narrative?
Well, even if it were to be like, what's good about you, then it would allow people to open up so much more, because nobody would want to talk about the bad things about them, the negative, and all this and all that. But if you were to ask them, what do you like to do, or what's something that makes you happy, then there's so much more to open up about, and there's so much more room to grow in a relationship, because it didn't start off as a negative narrative with that person. It started off positive, and then because it started off positive, they'll gain that trust, and then you'll have that trusting relationship, which is so important, like we talked about in the last question, to then talk about the negative, because you trust them. And then after you've talked about the negative, then you can actually get the help, because this person knows you. They know you're good and they know you're bad, and thus they know what would help you out and what wouldn't. And so I think that each person the definition of help changes from person to person, because everybody is so different in what they like and what they don't like. And so that's why I think it's so important to start off with the positives, because then you know what they like, and once you know what they don't like, you can tailor that quote unquote help to that specific person.
So what Jaren said about help was very, very true. Like, everybody's definition of help is very different. Like, if somebody was like, let me help you, to me, I would be like, I don't need sympathy. I'm not a charity case, thank you. Like, I don't need that. But like, for another person, it's like, let me help you. Okay, you can help me like get my groceries and help me cross the street. Like, you know, like everybody's help is different, but like tailoring to that is great. And like last session when we were talking about interviews and stuff, and how we need to rephrase how we do interviews, is basically like that, where we talk about positives first, and then if they're comfortable enough to talk about the negatives, then we talk about the negatives. Like I don't, like before when we were doing like the little leadership academy, when we were like still coming up, we were doing interviews, but we didn't do them very well, because it was our first time talking to people, and two, we didn't really know how to do an interview. But like you know, doing those different things and changing the way we think, because a lot of people take on different things in their life. So like stress and the alarm system is always on, especially people who are impoverished. And the stigma on impoverished people is very, very big, because everybody thinks that people who are in poverty, or like people who do drugs, is like they're lazy, they put that onto themselves, and this and that and the third, but not looking at how the economy is basically downplaying people and keeping them stagnant. So like, it's just basically like we gotta do more within ourselves, and not to try not to judge other people, because just like our alarm system is on for regular stressors, imagine somebody who's impoverished. Their alarm system is on 24/7. They're watching their back 24/7. So like, we gotta change the way we think, and especially with people who are impoverished. So yeah.
I totally agree with both of them said. I believe it was Dr. Davison who said that we have to not so much like change the narrative, but change our relationship to it. He also said that holding on to these negative narratives is like us prescribing ourselves our own description. Oh my gosh. It's like us prescribing our own depression. Okay, I'm sorry. But yeah, so we have to just change the relationship to these narratives and try to just have like a better mindset and think more positive.
I agree. It's just so cruel to judge. You know, a lot of these kids have potential, and going back to, you know, Deidre's point, a lot of the children, I mean, including Deidre, is the testimony of herself. You know, including people that, you know, felt underestimated, that I'm never gonna do this. You'll never hear me talk. You'll never hear me do this, or, you know, I'm not good enough to do that, or whatever the case may be. But as the growth, as you see the growth over the years, it's just amazing to know that there are people out there that believe in you. There are people out there, you know, that can tap into you to change that negative perspective on whatever people may judge you being, you know, just because they're in poverty. All they need is just that help. They need that hand to reach out to them and to bring them in and to just tap into their potential and be great. So thank you for sharing again.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
I always do that. But another thing that another speaker had talked about was not only doing it from the kid's perspective, but like the parent's perspective too. What has the parent gone through in their childhood traumas that they're projecting onto the kid? So brain science doesn't stop at the kid, it's the parents, the grandparents, the great grandparents, whatever. And I actually saw a video with Mr. Woods actually about generational trauma and how everybody's generation, like, okay, so I was talking to this guy and he was like PTSD, and I was like, okay, PTSD is genetics, but also it's for the Black people, it's post-traumatic slave disorder. There we go. Because we are going through everything else and going through the motions. So like our great grandparents are projecting what onto our great grandparents, and then our great grandparents are projecting to our grandparents, and then it's just a cycle that is just going on and on and on. So like, yeah, so we just gotta do that. I just wanted to say that.
No, thank you. Listen, anytime, just jump in, guys. But that's very important, you know. The generational, you know, how can we break that cycle and change the narrative? Why are we looking at our past and saying, well, I guess I'll just continue because my dad or my mother was like this? But no, we can change, and having those people now to believe in us can just break that cycle and you know, eradicate those statistics. Excellent. As we're wrapping up, we're getting closer to time, but I do want to ask this last question that I found interesting as I was reading on the news. President Obama is coming out with a new book next week, a memoir in which he considers the country's enormous problems, but says he has hope because he has learned to place his faith in his fellow citizens, especially the younger generation. That means you. How do you think the expression of hope will affect resilience among at-risk youth right here in Hartford?
I believe that this expression of hope would give people something to look for and something to look at. And I think the real problem is people who are impoverished, especially here and especially of the youth, they don't think they have anything to look forward to. And that is such a big problem because they believe, like wholeheartedly believe, that they're going to be stuck in the position that they are in. And so I think if they have something to look forward to, they have something to strive for, it can go lengths, because then they actually have the motivation to get out of the situation that they're in. And so that's what I personally think that it means.
For me, this is a whole new light because one, he is Black, and two, I actually saw his movie, a movie about him, and it actually changed my whole perspective on him because like he's not perfect. So like even though he's the first Black president, he's been through a lot, like especially like not knowing his dad and everything else. Like the movie shows a lot more than the media portrays about certain people. And so like writing this memoir gives people that strength because they see that, you know, a Black person came up and is the first Black president, and there could be many more presidents that are Black. So like even Oprah went through a lot in her struggles through life and stuff like that. Maya Angelou went through a lot of struggles in life. So like this is only like another stepping stone for Black kids, especially impoverished kids, because it gives them hope on how, like, what's next in my life, and they can actually set long-term goals for themselves, because like since like I talked about before, the alarm system, we're always thinking about short-term goals and how we can get out of this temporarily. And so like this memoir, I think, will give people the determination to like set long-term goals and be able to lift themselves up. So yeah.
I agree with what both of them said. I believe that given him having a book is really gonna help people with their hope, and it's gonna heighten the chances of other people feeling like it doesn't matter where I came from or where I come from. I can still succeed at the end of the day. I can still succeed, and there's no limits to it. Philip said, she had said that giving kids goals is creating a negative goaling system. So I think that when he makes this book and people actually begin to read it, kids will actually want to make for themselves, and they will stop trying to listen to the other goals that people are giving them, which will create a positive goaling system.
That's amazing. That's amazing. There is hope, and I know there's hope because I'm hopeful, and I'm working with amazing youth. It's just you three on this call. It's just been you three during these sessions, but we have a group of 15 to 20 others that do amazing work, and I'm happy that you guys are specifically focusing on this project of child injuries and fatality prevention. And again, I'm thankful to the Alliance for this opportunity. This is our last pre-recording, but again, there is hope. I'm excited to see Obama's memoir because he has hope for the younger generation, and that's you guys right here. You guys are our future, and again, we need to stop judging, we need to stop looking at the different stereotypes or kids that are at risk now, but we just need to reach out our hands to simply help them. They just need somebody that cares. And it's so important. It's so important for now. So again, I'm thankful that we're here having this opportunity with the Alliance. This is our last pre-recording. Next week, we will be live. Next week's concluding session will be 90 minutes, and it will focus on 21st century child and family well-being systems and the pivot toward prevention. And then following that will be a special youth grand finale, which you guys will be in on a live 30-minute session. So we'll be live next week. Again, this is our last session, but again, you can catch our future podcast. This was a special 4-session series with the Alliance for Strong Families and Communities. You can stay connected with us at Raising Youth Voices on YouTube, all social media platforms, and check out our other podcast episodes and so much more that we have. Again, we can't thank the Alliance enough for this opportunity. And of course, thanking you three for your amazing perspectives during each of these sessions. And of course, we're going to stay hopeful. And guys, continue to do the great work that you're doing. Again, my name is Eddie Brown, Director of the Greater Hartford Youth Leadership Academy at Hartford Communities at Care. And this has been an amazing episode of Raising Youth Voices. See you guys next week.